Oh, it's Thursday. So today we are going to be talking about shaping. Now, this is a continuation of the Ultimate Beginner Guide and the Guide to No-Sew Designing. So if you haven't watched either of those yet, I do suggest you catch up on those before watching this one today. Now, I do want to say before we go anywhere with this video, I am still encountering new techniques and working out how to do things. But I know that you guys are interested in this subject, so I thought I would try and share some of the stuff that I've worked out so far. Now, I'm going to be covering the absolute shaping basics in this video. There will be a part 2. It will be out next. I don't know if that means next Thursday or sometime before then, but that will be covering how I go about using these same techniques and these same tools to build slightly more complex shapes, so you should watch out for that. If the camera is slightly tilting, I am sorry. So the only stitches you're going to need for today's video are increases, single crochet, and decreases. They are your building blocks, and once you understand what they are doing, you'll be able to use them to make whatever shape you like. So increases use 1 stitch and create 2 stitches. We use them to add width to our work, and we cluster them to make corners. Now, the number of increases that you use changes the slope of your work, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, you'll see 6 evenly spaced increases in a round a lot, and that's because it allows for round shapes with no corners. Now, if you cluster those 6 increases into 3 distinct points, you'll create 3 corners and you'll end up with more of a triangular shape. And you can do something similar using 4 clusters to make square shapes. Single crochet uses 1 stitch and creates 1 stitch. We use them to add height and to maintain straight lines. Unsupervised, this stitch creates long, straight tubes. Decreases use 2 stitches and create 1 stitch. We use them to remove width from our piece as well as to close off corners. Now, the number of decreases that we do does impact the slope of our work again, but once more, we will talk about that later. Here is a basic ball as an example. Is that the ball? I don't think that is the ball. Now, here is a basic ball as an example. Now, this ball doesn't have much, but what it does have is potential. But first, we're going to take a minute to understand how we formed the shape to begin with. I would encourage you to try this with any patterns as you make them. You'll learn all sorts of tricks. For our ball, you'll see we work a couple of rows, each with 6 increases in them, to add width but no height to our round base. Then a row with 3 increases in it to add both height and width to our ball. Then we have rows of single crochet to add height but not width. Then we work decreases designed to mirror how we did our increases. So first 3 decreases, then swapping to 6 decreases per row until done. We've talked about clustering increases to make corners, but here is what that actually looks like. Here we have what happens to our ball if we work all of our increases and decreases in 1 cluster. 2 clusters. And 3 clusters. All we did was move where the stitches were in the row, and it has a pretty big impact on shape. That's why it's so important for you to be 100% sure what your shape looks like before you get started, because otherwise, how are you going to tell if it starts to look wrong? So, we're going to practice our shaping by mutating our basic ball.
Now, I've just done a couple of quick sketches of different modifications we could make from our ball. I've tried to make it obvious for you where the original ball ends up for each of these.
So we can turn this ball into lots of different things, but today I'm going to be aiming for something like this. Now, keep in mind today I'm going to be working my mutations 1 step at a time, but as you get more familiar with what I'm doing, you would probably do all of this in 1 hit.
I'll be completing my ball mutations over 4 key stages. First, we'll make our ball longer. Then we'll pinch in the middle to split it in half. Third, we'll push out one end into more of a point. And finally, we'll add character back into the shape with eyes and some colour blocking.
Now I'm going to be using different colours as well, just to help try and highlight what's actually being changed in the pattern. One thing you may notice today is I am going to be sticking to a factor of 3, so which means I will always be using either 3 or 6 increases or decreases in whatever rows are increasing and decreasing. So this is related to the slope. I don't want to overly maths at you right now. For today, all you need to know is that if we're using 6 increases or decreases, we're working for flat, meaning we don't want to add any height. We are either adding or taking away width. And if we're using 3, it means that we're trying to create an angled row, whether in or out, And we're trying to either add or take away width as well as adding height at the same time. So that's what you need to know for today. So the first thing we want to do today is take our ball and make it longer. To make something taller but not wider, you can just insert a row of single crochet at the point you want to make taller. This can be in the middle to turn your ball into a sausage, or it can be during your increase and decrease rows. For mine today, I'm adding 3 rows in the middle. So next we want to take our shape and turn it into 2 distinct segments, so like a head and a body. We know how to make something smaller and we know how to make something bigger because we do both of those just to make a basic ball. So now we just have to insert those rows somewhere into the pattern. You can position this anywhere in your long sausage, but I'm going to place mine in the middle to create 2 equal parts. So we have our head and body segment, and next I want my body segment to be more of a teardrop shape. To break down what this means, you kind of have to think about what a teardrop shape is. You want your ball to be the same width, but you want it to be twice the length, and you want it to kind of taper it down into a point. There are actually 2 different ways that you can create that shape really easily, and both use the same number of rows. The first way you can do this is by alternating between decrease rows and single crochet rows. This can result in a very jagged appearance, as you are basically telling it wider in one row, then taller the next. What you really want to do is tell it to go wider and taller in the same row. So that brings us to the second option, where instead of decreasing by 6, decrease by 3 in each row. This means each row is going to get slightly narrower, but also taller. This will get you a nice sloped shape. Both methods are pretty similar at the size I'm working at, but you can always just go with whichever you prefer the look of. With our shape done, we need to add the design of our creature to our shape. For me, I'm going to add eyes, and then some stripes, a pair of simple wings, and finally a pair of basic antennae. And just like that, it definitely isn't a ball anymore. And that's where we're going to leave this for today. So this video has been designed to kind of introduce you to the building blocks that we'll be using in the next video, which goes way more intensive on how to create certain shapes. However, feel free to leave your questions in the comment section down below, and I will do my best to either answer them or point you in the right direction to find the information. And as a final note, if you are only just starting to design, please remember that all new things take practice. Trial and error is perfectly acceptable, and everybody frogs. All right, so watch out for part 2. It should be up shortly. Okay, bye.